this platform. It's very, very heartening to see so many right group mix available today. You know, we have CSST people, nursing, we have quality, we have doctors, we have infection control nurses, and these are the key people who are majorly concerned with surgical safety. Right or wrong? So आपने इतना experience है तो मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा कि मैं क्या बोलूँगी. You guys know everything. So you know, my job is that way is probably so much more easier. I'm going to reiterate some of the things which we look at from a infection control perspective. I mean, आप लोग अपना काम बहुत अच्छे से जानते हैं, आपके processes बहुत strong हैं. But what is it that we need to look into with respect to the quality assurance? Because जो आप काम कर रहे हैं उसका outcome, output क्या है, उसको कैसे monitor करना है? Because ultimately proof of the pudding lies in that. कि जो आप कहना काफ़ी नहीं है कि हमारे processes बहुत अच्छे हैं, we are doing a very good job, we got good SOPs. How they are being translated at the patient care is what really concerns us at the end of the day. Because ultimately हमारा aim क्या है? All of us have a single goal of patient safety. Right, so that is most important, and I'll just share very briefly some of the things that we have to look at, we should be looking into, and I'm sure you all are doing in your respective hospitals also. So just for my interest, there's so many hospitals who are represented here. So is CSSD responsible for all the activities in your respective hospitals, or is it a split responsibility or a joint responsibility between the OR nurses and the CSSD team? सब जगह बिल्कुल क्लियर स्प्लिट है कि CSSD स्टेरिलाइजेशन, पैकिंग, क्लीनिंग, डिसइंफेक्शन सब कुछ करेगा, या कहीं कहीं ऐसा भी है कि नर्सेज आर इन्वॉल्व विद क्लीनिंग, डिसइंफेक्शन एंड पैकिंग, एंड द CSSD डज द स्टेरिलाइजेशन बिट एंड थिंग्स एंड सो ऑन. You have mixed, so PJ has got a mixed this thing. How about other hospitals? I know in my hospital it's a joint responsibilities between the OR nurses and the CSSD team, right? And it's like a split, it's like a TSU which we have in our hospitals. Any other experience from any other hospital?
I mean, SPS hospital, it's a joint responsibility.
Joint responsibility, right? And anybody else from the backside? Shared or total CSSD takes complete accountability? Joint. So जहाँ joint responsibility होती है ना, थोड़ी वहाँ पे accountability कम हो जाती है ना, because accountability भी share हो जाती है, and उसमें अक्सर क्या होता है, blame game भी होता है कि नहीं? So many years ago, my team is also here. Please, don't blame me for citing this. But इतनी झगड़ा होता था that we had created a group called as a horrible CSSD. Because we said no, everything stops at some problem CSSD ke, not realizing that there's so much more that happens than just the sterilization part of it, right? So therefore, let's just quickly look at what are the various aspects of sterility assurance. I don't know if anybody of you is aware of this book called Invisibles. इसमें इन्होंने ये लिखा है कि जो लोग the power of anonymous work without making a big blowing your own trumpet about it, right? So I feel sometimes that our CSSD teams are also like that. They are the unsung heroes. So when they do their jobs poorly, the consequences of it to the hospital are catastrophic. Agree? अगर काम अच्छा नहीं करेंगे तो बिल्कुल ही कुछ भी नहीं चल सकता. सर्जिकल स्पेशलिटीज डिपेंड कंप्लीटली ऑन इट, बट अगर वो काम अपना बहुत सही से करते हैं तो दे रिमेन इनविजिबल. तो उनकी पहचान तभी होती है जब वो बंद हो जाती है, कुछ काम नहीं कर सकता. राइट और रॉन्ग? है ना? So many times we feel that our CSSD people do not have so much of voice which they need to have, and इसके लिए आप लोग, मैं आप लोग कह रही हूँ because I am not a CSSD person, आप लोग भी उतने ही जिम्मेवार हैं. You need to make your presence felt in the organization. You need to create your own relevance for the hospital, because trust me, आपके बगैर सर्जिकल प्रोग्राम नहीं चल सकता है. एक दिन आप CSSD बंद कर दो, कोई सर्जरी हो पाएगी? बिल्कुल भी नहीं हो पाएगी. इन्फेक्शंस, प्रोसेसेस सब खत्म हो जाएंगे और कितना हाहाकार मच जाएगा, है कि नहीं? So I think, and platforms like this give you that opportunity to gain that confidence, to learn from each other. And I think this platform is not about these lectures. It is more about learning, sharing, understanding from each other, and growing together, right? So thank you team 3M once again for this. So as I said, CSSD is the backbone of surgical service in a hospital. And because इनका बहुत बड़ा role है in prevention of surgical site infections. My personal experiences, whenever there's a surgical site infection happening, right, कोई SSI होता है, उसको investigate करते हैं, डॉक्टर सर्जन से बात करते हैं, सबसे पहले वो ये बोलेंगे हवा खराब है, CSST ठीक नहीं है, नर्सेस प्रैक्टिस ठीक नहीं है. You will find 101 reasons which are beyond you to fix responsibility without really understanding that CSS is probably one of the department which really works very strongly on the SOPs. है ना, सबके पास SOPs है ना, सो हम लोग बहुत ज़्यादा केयरफुल होते हैं. CSST हो गया, लेबोरेटरी हो गया, प्लेसेस लाइक दिस वे हैव वेरी क्लियर डिफाइंड SOPs, वी हैव प्रोसेस इंडिकेटर्स, बिकॉज हम मॉनिटर कर सकते हैं बहुत सारी चीज़ें ना. पेशेंट केयर आप बहुत हद तक मॉनिटर नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज यू से पेशेंट का ये रिस्पॉन्स है, एवरी पेशेंट विल रिस्पॉन्ड डिफरेंटली. बट फॉर अस वी हैव इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स, वी हैव SOPs, we have indicators, so we have very defined precise things available for us, and therefore we can say with great confidence that whatever we are doing is definitely making a difference. We are giving you sterile goods, right? But the key word here is that you should be committed to your SOPs, processes, protocols as per the evidence-based guideline. इसमें मेरा आपका कुछ नहीं है. So there are definitive guidelines which are available, which we all need to follow. So we globally we know that surgical site infections are a reality. Even in a country like US, which is supposed to be very advanced, developed, having everything at their disposal, still 5% of SSI happen. Right? And in context of Indian healthcare, the numbers could be much higher, right? So I'm sure you all have heard of surgical site infections, which can be so devastating, so painful, not just for the patients but for the treating team and the hospitals also, right? And therefore, what is really required is an effective infection prevention program to reduce these SSIs, and the CSST or the sterility of the equipment and the quality assurance in CSST is a very critical part of it, right? Because your instruments which have passed through your hands, through your processes, will go directly into the sterile body sites of the patient. So if they are not assured, there's always a risk of things going wrong. So therefore, if I ask you here, why do we need quality? Do you think we need quality in CSST? क्योंकि इतना क्यों चाहिए हमें CSST में quality? And somebody just give me a few examples why we need to have quality in CSST? Random answers, there are no wrong answers, please. Yes.
Quality in the CSS is directly proportional to the quality of patient care we get in the...
Okay, very good. We need for safer patient care. Very good. Any other example? Why we need quality? One is safer care of the patient. Excellent. Sorry? Quality of sterilizer you said? Okay, that's a process to do it, but quality क्यों चाहिए? क्यों काम कर रहे हैं इतना सब इसके बारे में जो हम बोल रहे हैं, कहानी से सुना रहे हैं एक दूसरे को, क्यों चाहिए? Patient safety is one reason. Yes.
Ma'am, it directly shortens stay of a patient in a hospital.
Okay.
And
so indirectly
it is also aiding in reducing economically cost of everything.
Okay. So, yeah, so if you were not doing right, if there was no quality, it would lead to SSIs, it would lead to increase in length of stay, it would add the cost to the patient care. So this is a lack of quality can do all those things. It can add to the patient's morbidity and economic loss, and hence quality is important. Very good. What else?
Continuous monitoring.
Continuous monitoring, it's a quality assurance, but why do we need to do that? How does it impact? Yes, please. Yes? For infection control, yes, okay. Infection control, anything else? Quality matters, yes. Patient safety, patient care, preventing infections, making sure your sterilizers are working fine. Any other answers?
If you provide the quality, then the patient will come.
Yeah, so credibility, brand. अगर आप क्वालिटी दोगे तभी आपके पास पेशेंट भी आएंगे. तो वेरी राइट, थैंक यू वेरी मच. एनी अदर? यस.
Patient satisfaction.
Patient satisfaction, again extremely important. Patient and clinician satisfaction, that all comes in the big thing of credibility. Any other would like to take a guess? Yes, please, sir. You to assure 100% of sterile supplies, you said? Yeah, all right. So I think you have said many of the things right. So let's look at this. It could be, these are my views. Good patient outcome that we talked about, patient safety, good patient outcome. Accreditations. Many of the hospitals here are NABH accredited. So it's a mandatory requirement that you need to follow all these processes. So if you are going for an accreditation, the surveys are definitely going to come in the systems. Awards and recognitions. कितने लोगों ने यहाँ पे awards लिए CSST के ऊपर? Best CSST, raise your hands. How many of you have applied for awards, won and went out to the stage and felt so happy about it, that my hospital, my team has won this award? So that's a great, motivator also. Anybody has done that? So one, Mr. Bishan, anybody else? So this is a little motivation for you to apply for these awards. They are absolutely wonderful opportunities not to just improve yourself but to have a good pat on your back. Prevention of lawsuits. आजकल के ज़माने में जहाँ हम रह रहे हैं, कभी भी कोई ऐसी हॉस्पिटल एक्वायर्ड इन्फेक्शन होती है तो पेशेंट क्या करता है? माफ करता है आपको? नहीं करता है. They will put a legal case against you. And जब केस कोर्ट में जाता है तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें देखी जाती हैं, and this is one of them, especially for surgical site infections. So how good is your CSSD? What are your protocols, processes? And if you're following all of them, trust me, they really have a lot of weightage, and they give you a lot of advantage there. Credibility, somebody said, honor, brand name, confidence. That's why people will come to you again. And job satisfaction, is it not? A job well done. Ultimately, we all are working, from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or even round the clock, right? So we need to have some kind of satisfaction that we have done our jobs well. That is a pride. So therefore, that is again a very, very important driver of why we need to do quality. And also, if you don't do it, what's going to happen? You're going to get punched in, right? So, as I said, horrible CSSD, the doctors are going to not leave us, and therefore we become the favorite punching bag. But if you are following all those things, आप बहुत अच्छे से confidently हाथ उठा के कह सकते हो कि नहीं, मैं बिल्कुल सही काम कर रहा हूँ, मेरे यहाँ से गलती नहीं हुई है. So that is important. So therefore, what is the core responsibility of CSSD teams? What is the core responsibility? ये सब तो ठीक है, but करना क्या है CSSD को? एक word में कोई बता सकता है? What's the core responsibility of CSSD teams?
Maintaining sterility assurance level.
So it's to generate sterile goods, है ना? आपको sterile सामान देना है, वो आपका काम है, job responsibility. उसके लिए बहुत कुछ करना है, assurance करना है, ये सब करना है, SOP करना है. But aim तो goal तो यही है ना कि जब आपको request आ रही है OT से कि सामान चाहिए, तो आपका sterile सामान OT में time से पहुंचना चाहिए, right? लेकिन कभी-कभी ऐसा हो जाता है कि हम fail करते हैं अपनी duties में. It can happen, right? So we fail in delivering our responsibilities can also happen. And it has been seen that when this sterilization process failures happen, right, almost 85% of them happen because of human error. Because हमारी क्वालिटी एश्योरेंस सिस्टम में अमूमन इतनी अच्छी होती है कि हमारे स्टेरलाइजर्स, हमारी यूटिलिटीज आर वेल टेकन केयर ऑफ बिकॉज वी आर मॉनिटरिंग देम. सो ज़्यादातर एरर्स क्यों होते हैं? बिकॉज हम कहीं गलती कर रहे हैं. ह्यूमंस वी मेक एरर्स. So this was a published data which said that operator errors like incorrect use and interpretation of monitoring tools, selection of incorrect cycle for load contents, use of inappropriate packaging materials, or incorrect loading of sterilizers. I'm sure you know all of these things very well. कभी ना कभी किसी न किसी के साथ कोई ना कोई इवेंट जरूर हुआ होगा. एंड इसके अलावा जो हम यूटिलिटीज या स्टेरिलाइजर की बात करते हैं तो पोर स्टीम क्वालिटी इज एक्सट्रीमली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट हियर. इनकम्प्लीट एयर रिमूवल एंड इसके अलावा स्टेरिलाइजर में अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम आ जाता है कभी कभार. सो दीज आर द रीजंस फॉर स्टेरिलाइजेशन प्रोसेस फेलियर. सो हु ऑल हैव सीन प्रोसेस फेलियर्स इन देयर करियर? 22 साल, 23 साल, 15 साल, 4 साल, people have spoken about their long careers that they have done at CSSD. Have you, any of one of you, looked into or faced any such failures in your processes ever? कभी भी नहीं हुआ? ऐसा तो हो ही नहीं सकता. कहीं ना कहीं छोटा मोटा कुछ ना कुछ तो. So we all, it happens. We are living in a dynamic world, and sterilizers will go bad, processes will fail, humans will make mistakes. So it does happen all the time. So having said that, as I said, what is the goal of sterilization process is to produce sterile goods, and in terms it means that sterile का क्या मतलब है? What does sterility means? What is, when we say a good is sterile, what does it mean? उसका क्या मतलब है? Free from all kinds बोले तो? Including spores. कितने spores बोला? Yes, सबने spores बोला. So yes, sterility is free when a surface or article is free from all kinds of microorganisms, including spores. अभी spores को क्यों हमने डाल दिया बीच में?
Highly yield resistant.
They are, spore is the, जैसे कहते हैं ना कि जब adverse situation होती है तो बैक्टीरिया अपने तरफ एक कोट सा बना लेता है and it can stay alive for years together. The moment the bacteria, the spore forms a good favorable growing medium, it will again change its form to a dynamic bacterial form. So spores are the most resistant form of life, very difficult to kill. So कुछ ऐसा कोई प्रोसेस जो स्पोर को भी मार देगा, सो दैट इज द बेस्ट, राइट? सो दैट मीन्स स्पोर को मार देगा, बाकी तो छोटे मोटे तो मर ही जाएंगे. Agree? Right? So therefore, this is the goal, and that's why. But the problem is, can you see these spores? Can you see the microorganisms? Can you see the stability? अगर दिख जाते तो जिंदगी बड़ी आसान थी, मर गया, निकल गया इसको, है ना? So that means it's safe. But since we can't see the spores, we can't see the microorganisms, we can't see the stability, so we need to have some surrogate markers to identify कि वो मरा कि नहीं मरा, ठीक है? And which means that will give us confidence that our goods are sterile, they are free of microorganisms, including the hardest form of life, which means the spores. Okay, so therefore we need some monitoring methods, and these monitoring methods have been very clearly defined in various standards globally. So when we talk about science, जब हम hospital में बात करते हैं, science में बात करते हैं, CSST में बात करते हैं, we always talk about evidence based. हम मेरा एक्सपीरियंस, मेरा परसेप्शन हम नहीं बोलते, राइट? वी टॉक अबाउट व्हाट इज गिवन बाय द रेकमेंडेड प्रोफेशनल बॉडीज और ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, एंड व्हाट वी हैव इन फी स्पेस ऑफ CSST इज few of which have been mentioned here. सबने इनका नाम सुना हुआ है? आमी का नाम सुना है ना? So this is the one body which actually gives recommendations on instruments, how and so many what are the quality assurance now. That AORN तो सबने सुना होगा, Association of Operative who registered nurses, USA की body. So they actually talk about operative, peri-operative procedures which have a link to these surgical safety. CDC, we all know, for microbiologists it's a mecca. They whatever guidelines they take out, we follow them with complete faith. And ISO is basically a quality organization which talks about standardization of processes. So ये सब 4 चीज़ें हैं जो हम actually follow करते हैं. Fortunately, CDC is available online, free है, anybody can access. But rest of the army, AORN, etc. ये इनकी जो guidelines है वो आपको खरीदनी पड़ती है. They are not freely available. And here I have a request to some of the teams here that you should help us in getting access to these guidelines. It's a good idea to have these guidelines available within the hospital so that they know what is contained. हम सब सुनते हैं ये बोल रहे और मैंने लिखा है वो लिखा है, but seeing is believing. And I think if multinational companies like yours can facilitate these guidelines for the hospitals, it will be very helpful. Sometimes we also struggle to get an updated version of these guidelines. So as I said, hospitals should have updated versions to have a first-hand knowledge of what is written in these guidelines. And what they all talk about in terms of quality assurance is about 3 indicators or 3 parameters. You all know: physical, chemical and biological. So where a combination of all these parameters, when they are looked into together, they would assure you that whatever goods you are releasing, they are completely free of microorganisms, including spores, and hence they will assure your patients of complete safety while they are being treated in your hospitals. So let me just kind of do a quick dipstick survey here. What are our current practices? So with respect to biological indicators, right? So steam, आप सब जानते हैं, all CSST people, biological indicators हम लगाते हैं अपने sterilizers में, steam sterilizers में. So what is the current frequency? How often do we put them? Do we put them once in a month, once in 15 days, once a week, once a day, every load? क्या practice है हम लोगों का? Maybe I can start from the back. Yes, please, PGI team.
We use when we have the case of the implant, like cochlear implant surgery, and frequently after 15 days interval.
So आप यूज कर रहे हैं implants के, हर implant के लोड में लगाएंगे और 15 days में otherwise and the routine. Okay. What else? Anybody else would like to take to commit? And let me tell you, there's nothing good or bad. They are practices. अपने आपके hospital की practices हैं. That's what we are here to learn from each other. Yes, please.
We go for biological indicators weekly.
Weekly. So once a week you're putting biological indicator on steam sterilization, right?
Yes.
How about, do you use ET1 plasma as well?
Every load.
Every load. So steam is once a week, but ETO is every load you're using. Excellent. Anybody else would like to offer us some answers? What is, yes please, which hospital can you talk about?
प्लांट के साथ एवरी लोड,
Okay.
ETO का एवरी लोड, प्लाज्मा एवरी लोड.
Okay, so plasma every load and ETO every load. Steam is once a week and with every implant.
प्लांट के साथ एवरी लोड.
Every load. Okay. What else? Anybody else? Livasa team.
Every frequency, every Monday and every implant every basis.
So once a week and every implant.
And
Okay.
after that ETO each load.
ETO each load. Okay. Anybody from the backside, Tata? Anybody from Tata would like to share their experience?
क्लेम का वीकली चलाते हैं एवरी प्लान के साथ चलता है वीडियो का वीडियो के साथ चलता है
ठीक है जी. Anybody else with Max?
Class 5 indicator in every load, every pack.
Every pack. Excellent. So which hospital? Alchemist. Okay. Vishanji, would you like to say what you're doing?
Yeah, ma'am.
Mic ले लीजिए please.
District every load. Sorry, district every part first load and plasma first load and each
Load. Okay. So if you see the most frequent answer in this group was implant every load. Everybody is clear about it. ETO every load. People are talking saying right. And steam mein there is some variation. Some people are saying 15 days. Some people are saying once. Most of them are saying once a week. And somebody also said one every day. Right. So this is, am I correct? So as you can see, there is a variance in practices, and there's nothing wrong in it because till sometimes back this was the recommendation. That steam was, it's okay, once a week you run the process and it was fine. But I have a question here, right? We'll come to chemical and process challenge devices a little later. I have a question here. For example, you have run a biological indicator on Monday, right? And the next one you're running on next Monday and it fails. So how can you be sure of that when was the last time your cycle would have been fine? You don't know Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, was your sterilizer working fine or not because you never put the indicator there. So 1 week in today's time, I think when we talk about quality assurance for 100% of our patients, there is a grace zone of 5 days in between, is it not? So how do we bridge that gap is what these recommendations and thought about, and there have been some changes recently which we'll discuss with you. Apart from that, chemical indicators will be discussed by Mr. Tanvir a little later. But are you using 3, 4, what class of indicators or integrators are you using? 3. Class 5 you're using or implementing? And class 1 also. Okay. And how about 1, 2 and 5? 1, 2 and 5. Okay. And how about process challenge devices? Are you using them in your quality assurance protocol? No. Process challenge devices for Lumen instruments. What is your take on that? Are we using that anywhere? Lumen, क्योंकि काफी सारे हमारे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स लूमन भी होते हैं, स्पेशली जो मीटे वगैरह में यूज करते हैं, तो उसके लिए कुछ हम PCT यूज करते हैं? नहीं यूज करते. Okay, so I think we have experts here who will talk to us about it a little later. So this is the practices that we have across the Tri-City, and we agree there's a variance. So physical monitors, we all know that these are the parameters that verify that the sterilization cycles are met, and they could be something like what instrument printouts that we look into regarding charts, gauges, tape printouts, digital displays, right? And इसके लिए सबको एक वो जो instrument का printout होता है वो आपको file करना पड़ता है. You should file it in at least 2 years. That document should be kept with you, and that really helps us in sometimes medical legal cases and all. And for every cycle, this is available. Correct? Every cycle में निकलता है ना? And that's why every cycle का हमारा ये physical assurance है. But इसका प्रॉब्लम ये है कि it only monitors one location in the sterilizer. टेम्परेचर आ गया, जो भी हमने 120, 130, 137 जो भी रखा है देख के, ये नहीं पता कि पूरे लोड में is the temperature evenly distributed or there are certain pockets where that temperature has not been achieved. वो नहीं हमें पता, वो नहीं पता कैसे पता. So it only is a cycle का assurance है, but pack का हमारे को assurance उससे नहीं मिल सकता. So the conditions are not revealed in the, is everything fine there? Okay. So the conditions are not revealed in the temperature recordings such as improper packaging and improper loading procedures. And trust me, many of the problems happen because of this reason. So biological indicator, as I said, it's a gold standard. It's the proof of the pudding. ये outcome indicator है एक तरह से. ये मर गया तो हमारा goods बिल्कुल ठीक है. And इसमें होता क्या biological indicator? इसमें बहुत सारे spores होते हैं, very large number of spores होते हैं. And if the process, as I said, can kill the BI, it will make sure that this is the direct measure of your lethality. So process क्या होता है? इसके अंदर सबने देखे biological indicator. So they have spores and then we have a culture media. And then when you break it, the spore strip comes in contact with the culture media. If the spores have been killed, the color will not change. If the spores have not been killed, that means the bacteria will now grow and will produce some color change in the medium. So that's how we look at it. Now I want to ask you here, when you run these indicators, do you just run one control or do you run test also sometimes? Only control? Only control. कभी टेस्ट भी रन करते हैं? टेस्ट मतलब टेस्ट क्या होता है? कोई एक्सप्लेन करेंगे? टेस्ट क्या होता है? वेरी गुड. सो जो अनप्रोसेस्ड होता है वो हमारा कंट्रोल हो गया और जो हमारा स्टेरलाइजर के अंदर गया वो टेस्ट हो गया. तो अगर आपका वो स्पोर का जो वायल है वो ढंग से काम कर रहा है, जो स्टेरलाइजर के अंदर जाएगा वो कलर चेंज नहीं करेगा क्योंकि उसमें स्पोर्स मर गए हैं. लेकिन जो कंट्रोल है जिसको आपने रन नहीं किया है, इट शुड चेंज कलर. नाउ दिस इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट क्राइटेरिया एंड एटलीस्ट anytime you receive these biological indicators, a new lot, you must always run in parallel so that you are assured कि जो आपके पास shipment आया है वो ढंग से काम कर रहा है. हो सकता है वो सारे चेंज कर रहा हो कलर, उसको अंदर जाने की जरूरत ही नहीं, वो वैसे कलर चेंज है. The moment you break it, it's not going to change color. There's something wrong with the lot or the manufacturing cycle. So quality assurance of biological indicator भी important है, whether it's working fine or not. And at the time of lot change, at least, is there any other recommendation for it that every run you have to run it for control and test? No. So at least from the lot, because it's an expensive proposition, many of them may not be able to run. But जब आप एक नया बैच रिसीव करते हैं, एक जरूर आप उसको कंट्रोल टेस्ट में रन कर सकते हैं, करना भी चाहिए. So load monitoring, what are the guidelines saying? If you look at this Army standards for steam modality, it is saying that you must run BIs every day of the run. It's not once a week, it's not once in 15 days, it's every day because of the kind of problem you may have to face in case you are doing once a week, because वो 5 दिन की sterility in case of a failure आप assured नहीं कर पाएंगे. Even for ethylene oxide, it also talks about every cycle, and for plasma it says preferably every cycle, but अगर नहीं run कर सकते because of cost, at least once a day. So this is what the recommendation is from the Army, and Army is the guidelines we usually follow everywhere, and this is what the other guidelines are saying. I don't know if you can read the fine print here, but CDC also talks about daily use of biological indicators, and every implant load needs to be monitored. Army I've just shared. Even the APSIC guidelines, which is the Asia Pacific Society of Infection Control, it also talks about that run the biological indicator every day, usually in the first run of the day. Right? So that again you're minimizing the खराब होना तो सुबह ही पता चल जाए आपको. ऐसा नहीं कि 4 लोड्स निकाल दिए फिर आपको पता चल रहा है कि अब तो खराब हो गया, then you have to recall so many of them back. And of course they also recommend that PCDs are better indicator, the better way of running these biological indicators. So this is what NABH is talking about in the 6th edition. It also talks about for the biological indicators, steam every day, ethylene oxide every load, even plasma they're talking of every load. And for load monitoring, which is implant, is every load has to be monitored. So there's no controversy here. For implants, every load, mota mota ye yaad rakhna hai ki every load needs to be monitored. And important thing again here is how do you place, where do you place the biological indicators? They have to be, ideally should be a process challenge device. इसका मतलब ये है कि आप टेस्ट उसको रियल वर्ल्ड सिचुएशन में कर रहे हो. जब आप पैक डालते हो तो कैसे होता है, जैसे पैक साइज, कुछ टॉवल्स रैप्ड होते हैं, कुछ अंदर रैपिंग मटेरियल होता है एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ, राइट? सो इट्स नॉट लाइक कि बायोलॉजिकल इंडिकेटर को ऊपर रख दो. सो यू शुड कीप इट वेयर यू नीड इट, जहाँ पे आपको बिल्कुल पता चले कि ये मेरा इंस्ट्रूमेंट के साथ ही लगा हुआ है या उसके पैक साइज को ही सिमुलेट कर रहा है. So that is known as a process challenge device, which is designed to simulate a product to be sterilized. And what this is, what can be a component of this process challenge device? It's a pack, a test pack, and उसके अंदर या तो आप सिर्फ biological indicator रखें या biological indicator के साथ type 5 integrator रखें या सिर्फ type 5 integrating CIs भी आप रख सकते हैं. So these are the 3 things that one can normally use as a process challenge device. They are available commercially या आप खुद भी बना सकते हैं. बनाते हैं ना हम usually every day. किसी चीज़ के लिए बनाते हैं क्या? अपना डिवाइस किसके लिए बनाते हैं हम? मूवी टिक के लिए कि रेडीमेड यूज करते हैं आजकल, तो मेरे ख्याल से, है ना? So any commercially available, you can make it yourself, and the team here can actually teach you. I hope you have some video where they can visualize how to make this test packs yourself. However, the Army standards do not mention about any hollow load test. तो उसके लिए कोई process challenge device है? Even I need to understand from the team if they are having anything, any other society guidelines are recommending PCDs for hollow devices monitoring, because जो lumen devices हैं उनका अंदर का they're very long devices, so how do you ensure that the sterilization is happening at the other end of the lumen also? So there are some, earlier we used to talk about these lumen devices, but surprisingly the army is not talking about it, and as I said, they should be placed in the worst case area of the sterilizer जहाँ पे temperature सबसे कम achieve हो सकता है, and I am sure you would you know it better that what is the coolest portion of the chamber? Near the drain, right? So this PCDs should be placed near the drain. Is it okay? यही रखते हैं हम लोग कि कहीं और कहीं भी रख देते हैं ऊपर नीचे, सबसे ऊपर रख दिया. So be mindful of it in case you were not aware of it. This needs to be done. And as I said, regarding implant loads, we just discussed for every load we need to put BI, चाहे वो WHO, Army, CDC, APSEC, AORN, सब क्या कह रहे हैं कि use the process challenge device either with BI or BI plus PCD, which for every implant loads, and quarantine the loads with implants till BI results are negative. Right? And no flash sterilization for implant loads. Now I want to understand flash कौन करता है? बहुत लोग करते होंगे. Do we use flash sterilization in your hospitals or CSST? करते हैं?
Not nowadays. Previously it was used, but not nowadays.
अभी नहीं कर रहे. OT में कई बार रख लेते हैं flash sterilizer, है ना? OT में रख लेते हैं क्योंकि गिर गया इंस्ट्रूमेंट तो फटाफट उसको निकालते हैं. But they are only for real emergencies. They are not a replacement for your sterilizers, because उनकी monitoring और उनकी transportation हम assure नहीं कर सकते हैं. Number 1. Number 2, आपका जो BI है, क्वारंटीन हम कहते हैं कि जब तक बायोलॉजिकल इंडिकेटर का रिजल्ट नेगेटिव नहीं आता, आप लोड को रिलीज नहीं करेंगे, जिसको हम बोलते हैं क्वारंटीन, राइट? नाउ व्हाट इज द प्रोसेस हियर? जो आपका बायोलॉजिकल इंडिकेटर का रिजल्ट है वो कितनी देर में आता है? सेम डेट, आधे घंटे में, फ्यू आवर्स में, या 24 आवर्स या 48 आवर्स? 48 आवर्स मोस्टली. 48 आवर्स. बैक एनीबडी एल्स? 48 आवर्स दिस साइड. सबका 48 आवर्स है? Anybody different? Yes, please.
अगर कुछ नेगेटिव होता है तो दे इन्फॉर्म अर्ली
24 आवर्स कर देते हैं. ओके. बल्कि पॉजिटिव जल्दी इन्फॉर्म कर दोगे. हाँ.
नेगेटिव रिजल्ट.
हाँ, नेगेटिव को तो 48 ही लगेंगे. अर्ली शायद 24 आवर्स पे आ जाए तो इन्फॉर्म कर सकते हैं. सो आप मुझे बताइए, तब तक लोड को क्वारंटीन करते हैं क्या? So do we release the load or we keep it जब तक रिजल्ट नहीं आएगा, मैं ही अपना सामान इशू करूँगा या करूँगी? ऐसा होता है क्या? कर सकते हो? हाँ? So implant में तो चलो समझ में आ गया, you are taking extra precaution. What about other loads?
We are also placing class 5 indicators in each and every batch.
Okay. Okay, so that is you are offsetting it. So 48 hours को आप इस तरह से offset कर रहे हैं कि आप class 5 CIs use कर रहे हैं. But सोचिए 48 hours तक quarantine करना impossible है. किसी के पास इतनी इन्वेंट्री नहीं है, कोई नहीं रुकेगा, राइट? एंड हम तुरंत उसको लोड को इशू कर देते हैं राम करके कि अब अगर गड़बड़ हुई तो फिर देखेंगे क्या करेंगे, राइट? एंड द गुड थिंग इज कि फेलियर्स इतने फ्रीक्वेंट नहीं होते हैं, तो हम शायद अब तक चलते चले जा रहे हैं, जिंदगी इतनी मुश्किल नहीं हुई. बट जिस दिन आपका गया, राइट, और अगर आप किसी पेशेंट में कुछ गड़बड़ हो गई, देन यू हैव हैड इट. तो कहते हैं ना, जिंदगी में एक एक्सीडेंट काफ़ी होता है टू मेस अप योर लाइफ. So therefore, important thing for us to remember is that we need to cut short this period. This is what we have been doing historically, but technology is changing, and we need to evolve, we need to adopt, and we need to adapt the newer technology also, right? And having said that, here the companies again have to support the teams, because cost is the biggest deterrent for people to move from the traditional way of working to the newer way of working, right? So that is the biggest challenge that we have. And the same holds true for the loaned devices also. Most of the CSSTs will get loaned devices, so same protocol needs to be followed for the loaned devices. They also need to be subjected to the same sterilization protocols, and flash is again not recommended. Another word of caution for loaned devices, because वो आपके अपने नहीं होते हैं, बाहर से आते हैं, हो सकता है कई बार आपका staff trained ना हो, so it's important for people to be aware of what they are getting, and in case there are some special instructions, then the company which is providing the loan instrument should also give you a guidelines on how to use that. Okay. So finally, the last segment, fail हो गया कुछ, चाहे वो केमिकल था, कोई प्रोसेस फोलियर था, बायोलॉजिकल था, रन फेल हो गया, नींद उड़ गई सबकी, है ना? ऐसे ही होता है ना, हलबली मची खल्ली मिली, अब क्या करें, किस किस को मंगाएंगे वापस? हाँ, सो किसी ने कभी किया ये, फेस किया है? फेस नहीं किया तो मॉक ड्रिल किया है कभी इस पे किसी ने कुछ? एक्सेलेंट, यू हैव डन मॉक ड्रिल वेरी वेल, राइट? क्या मिला आपको मॉक ड्रिल में?
मैम रिकॉल पॉलिसी करी हमने।
हाँ,
तो हमने ऐसे ही करा कि एक रन फेल हो गया, तो ओटी स्टाफ के पास जितना भी सामान गया था, आईसीयू में हर जगह से हमने रिस्पांस चेक करना था कि लोग कितना रिस्पांस करते हैं। सो एज यूजुअल आईपीसी नर्स तो होती है वहाँ, सो हमने ये चेक करा कि सबको ही टेंशन थी कि वो सामान किस पेशेंट पर यूज हुआ है। सो नर्सिस ने हमें कॉल करके बताया हमारे इस पेशेंट पे हुआ है, जितना हमने उनको ट्रेन करा था। सो हमने पेशेंट को फॉलो भी करा, जैसे सर्जरी के अकॉर्डिंग, इम्प्लांट है तो 90 डेज, अदरवाइज 30 डेज। सो वी डिड दैट जॉब। Excellent. Give her a big round of applause. I think you have said it all and that's what needs to be done. Recall policy बहुत ज़रूरी है हॉस्पिटल में। सबके पास प्रोसेस होता है, लिखा हुआ होता है, किसी बुक में पढ़ा होता है ना, पर किसी ने पढ़ा भी नहीं होता और कभी हम उसको कंप्लीट इंटेंट से करते भी नहीं हैं। हम दिखाने के लिए एक मेल डाल देंगे कि दिस हैज़ फेल्ड, काइंडली सेंड मी बैक ऑल द थिंग्स दैट वर इशू, बट दैट्स नॉट हाउ इट वर्क्स। यू शुड गो एट द बेड साइड, एट द क्लिनिकल एरियाज, ट्राई टू रिकॉल वॉट एवर वॉज लेफ्ट। यू शुड नो कितना पहले तो आपने उस बैच का कितना सामान कहाँ कहाँ भेजा था, उसके बाद यू रिट्रीव ऑल दैट स्टफ एंड यू सी what could not be retrieved, on what patient it was used, and as this girl very rightly said, this has to be tracked, these patients have to be put under surveillance. So whenever such a thing happens, you know, it's extremely important that first of all you quarantine the load and do a risk assessment, right? अब जो issue हो गया, अगर आप 48 hours का protocol follow करते हैं, so बहुत सारी चीज़ें तब तक तो जा चुकी होंगी, quarantine का तो मतलब ही नहीं आता है, right? But you know, you still need to look into it. You still need to get what is probably not used and follow all those patients where it was used. This is the very nice recall process flow chart. तो एक तो SOP आपकी बड़ी strong होनी चाहिए and उस SOP में ये flow chart ज़रूर होना चाहिए. Can you see this flow chart or is it too small to be seen? But anyways, I would request the 3M team to kind of make a chart and you can give it to all of us. We can put it in our CSSTs. For as a ready reckoner and also as a part of the SOP. So whenever there is a process for failure, you need to first quarantine the load and ज़रूरी नहीं कि आपको सबको recall करना पड़े. हो सकता है it is a one-off operator error, सिर्फ उसी लोड पे फेल हुआ हो. So if you can identify the cause कि मेरा साइकिल गलत लग गया, मेरा टेम्परेचर ठीक नहीं था, मेरी स्टीम की क्वालिटी पुअर थी. If you can identify the cause, maybe you needn't recall the entire load, but if you cannot identify the cause, then definitely you need to recall the processes. So as I said, in failure, whenever there's a BI failure happening, so there is a situation where you don't need to recall the entire load. You can immediately identify the cause, and this failure could be confined to one load or item. So correct the problem, re-sterilize that entire load, and you're good to go. On the other hand, if you cannot identify the cause, you have to stop the sterilizer, you have to put it out of use, you have to recall everything, do a root cause analysis, find out what the problems were, and then only put the sterilizer back into use. And here I would like to ask you, जब आपने recall करना है तो कब तक recall करना है? So what load items will you recall? अगर आप once a week run कर रहे हैं, राइट? सो सपोज आपने लास्ट मंडे को आपने रन किया और इस मंडे आपका फेलियर आ गया, तो आप कहाँ तक रिकॉल, क्वारंटीन या सर्विलेंस करेंगे? Somebody just said? Excellent. Till the last negative report, which will be last Monday. मतलब आपको एक हफ्ते के अंदर तो मेरे को लगता है सब कुछ यूज हो ही गया होगा. So you will have to put the patients who underwent surgeries during that period under surveillance if you are true to your patients. We can let it go also. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? But if you are really very concerned about your patient, you would probably put a notice and sometimes in the interest of transparency, some good hospitals actually connect back with the patient also. Sorry sir, we had a load failure, we're putting it under your surveillance. In case you have a problem, please report to us. In case you have a surgical site infection, many hospitals would be scared to do that, right? क्यों पंगा लेना है? निकल गया नहीं तो लोग ऐसे ही आके हम पे ब्लेम करेंगे, कुछ और मांगेंगे, but this is what the expectations are. So whenever any kind of failure happens, you need to notify the managers, administrators, infection control team, whosoever is a stakeholder, right? This is for the for all kind of failures, and in case of major failures where you actually have to do a recall, you also have to notify the concerned surgeons, probably the patients who underwent these surgeries, and you should also have a checklist for recall so that nothing is missed. And when you put these sterilizer back into operations, you need to make sure that all the quality assurance is in place, which means you have to run 3 cycles of bovine